Okay, so as you should have realized, phones away please. Away. As you should have realized already, this course is following a progression. Just to recap, we started with Adam Harishon before the Chet. We said there was a big change, the Chet of Adam and Chava, and then we were after the Chet. And then we said that the mission of mankind changed. The whole purpose of all of history, we said, was to get back to that original place that we'll be getting to. What is the mechanism that triggers off that change, that return? And we said for us, the Jewish people, and the non-Jews have their mitzvot as well, is mitzvot. Okay? And we did a whole class or two on the nature of mitzvah, what it's like, what their role is and how they work, and how they fix the soul. We spoke about the soul and the different levels of the soul. We've done a lot. What I want to do now is I want to laser in on one particular mitzvah. And the reason I'm going to do this is that we'll get a lot of an understanding of that connection of body and soul by looking at a mitzvah. Now, in many mitzvot, it's difficult to see. We finished last class with the Chavetz Chaim. We ran through it. I would urge you to go through it slowly in your own time. But I've chosen a few different mitzvot to look at in depth. The one I want to look at today is the mitzvah of kosher. Why do you think I chose this particular mitzvah when trying to illustrate the ideas we've looked at already in the course? We could have chosen any other form of mitzvot. There's so many wonderful mitzvot out there. Why do you think we stopped at the mitzvah of kosher? Why do you think I did that one in particular, yeah?
Just a guess, but maybe because like a lot of times like we don't really see the reason behind the kosher. It's more like these are the rules and the laws and you follow them. And the whole point is that once you do that, like that controls how you're gonna react in the future, like your action.
Okay, very good. Very, very good. You said a lot there. Oh, we'll break it down. You said a lot of good stuff, yeah? Yeah.
Because kosher, I think, is one of the main things that makes you religious if you keep it.
Kosher is one of the main things that makes you religious when you keep it.
Kosher and Shabbat.
And Shabbat, very good. Shabbat, according to what?
According to society.
Yeah. Shabbat is going to speak a lot about an observant person, and kosher as well. Shabbat has its own reasons, but kosher does have its own reasons as well. Mina?
What we put in our bodies is going to affect our body and soul.
What we put in our body is going to affect our body and soul. Okay. Also true. Very good. Yeah.
I think it spiritually heals and physically heals the body.
So, what we're going to look at, based upon what everything you guys just said, which was all very, very good, is that I think I chose this mitzvah. First of all, it's not studied enough, right? It's really weird. It's weird because it's a chok, and we said last class, chokim are mitzvah that we do not know the reason for, but at the same time, we are given reasons for it. So that's weird factor number one. Weird factor number two is that although it's a mitzvah, we are going to see the connection between body and soul, I think, most clearly and evidently through this particular mitzvah. Unlike any other mitzvah, giving charity, a korban, when you study, you try to understand it, and you get some illumination as the mitzvah and its effect on a person, here we're going to see through our sources that kosher, which is very misunderstood, is going to give us the clearest, as I think, the clearest connection that I can find that demonstrates this connection between body and soul. Because you do it with your body, but without it, your soul leaves your body, you die. So whatever this thing, that's eating, that's what we're talking about, right? Whatever this eating thing is, it's going to connect body and soul, right? Because without it, you die. A person will not die by not keeping Shabbat. It's not a good thing, but die because of it. Here, though, there's something going to be invested in it that's going to tie guf and neshama together. I will mention, and we're going to see this as well, that we already, in this course, did talk about eating. Where in this course already did eating come up? It's not a trick question, yeah? Adam and Chava. They ate from the Eitz Hadas, from the tree of good and bad, tree of knowledge. We're going to see that eating, all eating, is going to try to end up trying to fix up that original sin as well. So it's also connected to where we've come in our course so far. Are we all clear so far? Okay, all cell phones away, please. We've got a lot to do today. And if you're on your computer, I would ask you not to go to Facebook and tag me yet. You can tag me after class. But for now, try to keep your pages only open to blank pages, because the people watching your computer are going to get influenced by that as well. So let's just discuss the basic elements of what kosher is. And then we'll look for reasons about it. And then we'll look at the sources which find it. First of all, let's look at the word itself. What does kosher actually mean? What does the word kosher actually mean? It doesn't always mean in food context.
Proper. Proper or like...
Proper, okay. As in, that's a kosher person, as opposed to, that's an unkosher person that you should stay away from. Okay. Well, when it comes to food kosher, it means fit to eat. But you could have kosher tefillin, which are fit to wear, a kosher talit, which is fit to... There's a kosher way to do things. So that word is used colloquially to describe a number of things that are the right and proper, fitting way to do something, or to be, or to live, or to wear, or to eat. It's a general title. Now Rashi talks about kosher and says, kosher, and by the way, this is going to dispel a lot of what most people think about kosher is, because most people say kosher is all about health. We're going to see that the Torah itself does not make that connection. It does say you have to take care of your body, which we discussed in the course already, but nowhere does the Bible say anywhere in it that you eat for your own health. It does not say that. Where do you think kosher will fit in the mishpatim, chukim, and edut mitzvot? It's a chukim, it's a chok. We don't know the reason for it. Right? It's a chok. And again, the weird thing is, we're going to find some reasons. But we're going to see we have to go to the Kabbalists to do that, because the Kabbalists have to give us those reasons. And we'll try to figure out why it's a chok as well. Right? There's a reason why it falls under the chok category. There's a reason why Shatnez is under the chok category. There's a reason why Paradum is under the chok category. And there's a reason for that as well. So it's going to be in that category for a reason. There's a reason the rabbi said, oh, kosher? They could have said it's all about health and healing. But we know that people eat kosher who are extremely unhealthy, don't exercise, don't eat well. And so it can't just be that, as we're going to see the commentaries are going to talk about. Well, let's just run through the basics first of all. What makes something kosher? Let's start with meat. What makes an animal kosher? What makes a cow kosher? It's shechted the proper way. That's correct. That's for fowl as well, by the way. That's not just being animals. So what makes an animal kosher? It's got split hooves and chews the cud. In Hebrew, that is malegera. It chews the cud. That means it goes into one stomach. It then goes back into the mouth. It is re-chewed and then goes into another stomach. Actually, it's four stomachs. Actually, it goes one, two, then out, then back in, and then it's digested. It goes through the intestine, then it comes out as fecal matter. All right. That's why you see cows walking around just chewing for a long time, right? Because they've actually digested it once. It's gone back into the mouth and goes back into the second or third stomach, fourth stomach, in order to be fully digested. Okay? What else does a cow need to have, or an animal, sorry, need to have in order to be kosher? Shosat shesa and parsa, which means a split hoof and a complete split hoof. You could have an animal that has a split hoof, like a cow, but it must have a complete split hoof. You don't think of an animal that has a split hoof, but not a complete split hoof. A pig has a complete split hoof. Pig's hoof is perfectly split, right down the middle. What animal is split but not totally split? Because you need to have shesa, right, and prasa parsa, needs to have a complete split. A camel, a gamal, is split, if you look at it, but it's got a webbing underneath it. So it's not completely split, and therefore it's lacking one of the two simanim. So it needs to have two, right? Shtei simanim, two signs in order to be kosher, right? It needs to have the split hoof, totally split, and it needs to, as we say in English, chew the cud. In Hebrew, malegera. Right? If it has one, it is not kosher. Can anyone think of an animal that has a split tooth but does not chew the cud? Don't shout at me, you know. That's right. The chazir. The chazir. By the way, what does the word chazir mean? Pig. What do you call a pig with 3 eyes? Pig. That's right. That was your father's joke right there. What do you call a deer with no eyes? No idea. Anyway, so this is the... I'm full of them today, by the way. The word chazir means a pig, but actually what does the word chazir mean? You should know me by now. I want to know what words actually mean. To return. Why has the pig of the word return connected to it? So the answer to that question we'll discuss when we get to Mashiach. There's going to be different opinions. One opinion is, fascinatingly, that the pig is going to actually become kosher. Some say that the pig is a metaphor for Edom, the Roman Empire, which we're going to see, which we're still under right now, possibly. And they are going to return as well. But some say no, the nature of the pig is going to change. Now the pig is unique. It is the only creature the Torah itself tells us, and this is pretty wild for the Torah to say, that there's only one trait. It's got the split tooth, it does not chew the cud. It's got split tooth, it does not chew the cud. Okay, it's the only creature, which is why we don't really like pigs. By the way, eating a fly, we're going to see, is worse than eating a pig halachically. But we don't like the pig is like the worst thing. Why? Because it's a liar. It tells us I'm kosher with its split tooth, and inside it's not. We don't like that. Right? We'd rather you're like inside truthful and outside. You know what I'm saying? Here it's fooling us a little bit. So pig is about to represent, like, you say non-kosher, you think pig. But actually, halachically, there are many creatures and animals that actually halachically are worse than eating a pig when it comes down to it. Many insects that fly and crawl will be in that category, yes.
What about ducks?
Ducks. Well, we're going to get to fowl in a second. We're going to get to birds, and that's a whole different categorization. Let's start with this one. So, split tooth, right? Shesa, prasa, right? And chew the cud. That's mentioned in the Torah itself, okay? Chazir is one example. Do you have an animal that has a, doesn't have a split tooth, but does chew the cud? Has one of the other signs? Yeah, a lot of animals. We just mentioned one, a camel. A camel chews the cud. That makes it kosher. Doesn't have a split tooth. And therefore it's not kosher. Donkeys, horses, all these are animals that are not kosher. We may not eat them. And that's pretty much it, despite the fact the way you slaughter, even in a kosher animal. Giraffe, by the way, is giraffe kosher? Yes, it is. Why do we not eat giraffe? That's a myth. We know exactly what a shechta is. It's got a really big neck, right? The giraffe is saying, shecht me anywhere here. One reason is because, we know it's shechted, because you don't really find giraffes among Jews, right? Not so many Jews walking around Namibia, wherever they are, you know, trying to hunt down giraffes. If they were, they could probably do, and they're probably, in most cases, they're endangered species, so we don't know. But having said that, they probably are kosher. Some say the way you have to treat the animal and turn upside down or to kill it, it's very difficult to actually kill. But, and we know where it's shechted, that's a myth. But if you were to find an animal where it's okay to kill that animal in order to shecht it properly and nail it, giraffe will be okay. Giraffe will be okay. Okay. Any questions on animals? Okay. So deer, kosher? Yeah. Bison, kosher? Yeah. My wife makes bison burgers. Delicious. Nice and lean they are, right? Yak in a bun. Nothing bad. Right. All these creatures are okay. And of course, when you shecht it, it's going to be very important as well. Okay, let's do birds. How do you know whether a bird, an oath, so this is behemoth, this is behemoth, right? How do you know whether a bird, an oath, is kosher? What makes a bird kosher? Yes? What does the Torah tell us? What does the Torah tell us when it comes to birds? It's unusual, this. Yeah?
The Torah just tells us not to eat.
Exactly. The Torah lists them. There's a list of 24 birds that are listed in the Torah, and these ones you can't eat. Actually, kosher, let me ask as a question, is kosher mitzvahs aseh or mitzvahs lo aseh? Is kosher a mitzvahs aseh, a thing you should do, or a mitzvahs lo aseh, that you cannot do? Where would you categorize this?
Cannot do.
Some you cannot do, that's right. There's no mitzvah to eat kosher. You just can't eat non-kosher. So what are you left with? Kosher. Which means if a person doesn't want to eat animals or birds or fish or anything else, that's okay. Okay, when it comes to Shabbat, we can discuss it, right? But if a person wants to be vegetarian, want to eat birds, want to eat fish, vegan, that's okay. There's no mitzvah to eat these animals. You just cannot eat them. So all the lists we look at are mitzvahs lo saseh. They fall into the category of 365 do not do's. Are we clear on this? Let's just get this together. Is kosher Mr. Doraisa, Mr. Rabbanan? It's Doraita, because it's Dorabanan as well. Right? It's going to blend into both, as we're going to get to. But we'll discuss it right now. So we have a list of 24 birds. Now, according to that, all I need to do is open up my Bible, find the list of 24 birds, and I know what I can eat. What's the problem there? And this is very, very tricky. There's a difference of opinion as to what falls inside this list of 24. Some we know, but some are not so clear. There's actually machloket. Right? And you look at many translations, they won't translate the bird. Ari Kaplan does because he was a genius, right? But you look at many translations, and they'll not just put the Hebrew word, and they'll transliterate it, right? Tinshemet, right? And they'll try to find some other way to describe the creature, right? In some way, in order for us to figure out what it is. It's chasida, right? What's that? We're not too sure, right? So it's a stork. There'll be many different interpretations. So what are we going to do? If we're not too sure, some stuff we are pretty sure, some we just don't know. How are we going to know what we cannot do when it comes to birds? We're going to have to rely upon something else, which is Fiddler on the Roof is your clue. Tradition. That was my school play, by the way. I was Tevye. Actually, I wasn't Tevye. There were so many kids in the class that we actually divide Tevye into 3 roles of Tevye, Levi, and Devya. And I was Devya. And don't ask about Goldust, Golda, and Mulder. And I'm not kidding with you, by the way. Okay. Right, so we have what's called, it's called, in Hebrew, Mesorah. There has to be a Mesorah tradition that that's a bird that we eat. This became very tricky when the Jews came to America. And for some reason, there was a question about a bird that was here, and I guess it wasn't in the old country, and that is a very American bird, a turkey. A turkey. And the question was, is it kosher or not kosher? Right? Well, look in the list. We're not too sure. Is turkey kosher or not kosher? You know, because you celebrate Thanksgiving, right? So we have it over there. There are some that say we're not too sure. It's accepted. Every kasher agency will kosher. They say turkey's part of the chicken family somehow. They connect. There's a Mesorah, and we rely upon it. Having said that, I believe the Rosh Hashiva, Rav Shefta, over here, for himself, does not eat turkey. That's the Mesorah he has within his family not to eat turkey. Turkey's totally kosher. But some people took upon themselves that we're not to share, and they actually don't eat turkey to this very day, yeah.
Is there 24 birds that you can eat or can't?
Cannot. This is the list of birds you cannot eat. Right? These are non-kosher birds. If it's not in that list, you can eat it. That's a lot of birds out there, but yeah, but it's part of a certain family, it's a genus. It's hard to figure out. So we have a Mesorah. Right? We have a Mesorah. We'll see though. There's going to be another identification. The Gemara itself talks about the way it holds its claws, but another identification of kosher birds, but I'm going to leave that to a little bit later. Let's move on to fish. What makes a fish kosher or not kosher? If it can be made into sushi, I mean, what's the categorization of it? Right, it's got to have snapir v'kaskeset. Snapir, let's write this down. It's got to have snapir, which is, it's got to have a fin, and kaskeset, fin and scales. It needs to have both. 1 second. Isn't that obvious? Don't they always have both? Could you have one creature without the other? Are there creatures that have one without the other?
Yeah.
Is there a creature that has a fin and no scales?
Yeah.
Shark. Hey, shark. Dolphin. I swam with dolphins actually. This for Pesach. I was on a program where I was the guest lecturer, and I'll tell you actually a very funny story. So I took my coat. I bought me 4 daughters. I'm like, "You want to swim with dolphins?" Like, yeah. Oh, but it sounds amazing. So we went to this place, and they fine. So basically, here's the tank. Right? So we arrived there, and they put us in a tank, and you're inside the water up to about here, and you're on a shelf in the water, and you're the only ones inside there. So it's me, my 4 daughters, 15 down to 10, and my little son. He's at the end. He's the last one to come in. And we're there. And the guy walks over and he says, so what are you doing? He goes, we're here to swim with the dolphins. He goes, why are we in this tank? I'm like, what do you mean in this tank? The told us come here. No, this is the shark tank. And there's a shark. And my 15-year-old daughter let out a scream. She climbed over the other kids in order to get out. And I'm standing on the last one because I'm the first one in the water. I'm like, I'm going to get eaten. And actually, it was actually a very safe shark. I swam with the shark as well. They were like screaming on the outside. And then we did the dolphin thing. Wonderful creatures. You can play with them. You can swim with them. But you can't eat them. Why? They got a snapir but no kaskeset. You have to learn this word. Snapir and kaskeset. How about the other way around? Could you have a fish or an aquatic creature, actually, as part of a better interpretation, that has scales and no fin?
Shrimp. No.
Shrimp has neither.
Oh.
And the answer is no. It's impossible. If it has scales, it must have fin. That's true. Anatomically and halachically. Now this is important. Why is the halach important? It's going to have major halachic ramifications. Because if you were in a fish stall and they had a fish that's cut up and skinned, so there's no fin or no fin on it, but you see it has scales, you can buy it. It's kosher. Why? Because if it's scales, it must have fin. And these are the two traits you need to have. Shark, out. Let's say a creature only has them in the water, not out of the water. Some creatures do. And the answer is, we are so much, we don't do it. I mean, swordfish, some creatures we're not so sure about. We need to have absolute certainty. You have kaskeset and snapir. You need to have both. Okay? There's actually a fish store in England when I was growing up, I don't know if it's still there, called Fins and Scales. That's what you need. Fins and scales. Why these are the particular features, we're going to see. Possibly an answer as to why these are the traits for fish. Yes?
I don't know if this is related, but I learned that let's say you're at like a non-kosher store and you're buying like salmon or something, if it still has the skin on, then you can buy it.
That's what we're saying. It's exactly what we're saying. We're saying it's got scales on it. You know what the fish is? It's cut up. You're not too sure. If it's got scales, you can assume it's got fin.
Okay.
Now, there's other problems when it comes to cooking that creature and what it's cooked in. But if you're in a fish, I don't know, in England we call them fishmonger. I don't know what they call them here in America.
Market.
Thank you. You're in the fish market and you see a fish and it's cut up, it's got scales on it, it's got a fin on it.
Okay.
You're good to go.
Does it have to be shafted in a certain way?
No, fish do not need to be.
So can you buy
My
it?
grandmother used to keep, and your grandmothers as well, your great grandmothers used to keep fish in the bathtub. And Erev Rosh Hashanah used to get them.
Could you just buy fish from like any brand that lines with kosher fish?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
But how does that make sense? Because I was at Fairway the other day and like they had salmon and everything, but they also had like shrimp and squid and all those things.
So if they're in close proximity, truth be told, if they're cold, this is another discussion, and you just rinse them off, right, one after the other, and then it's probably okay as well.
Even if it's being caught by like the same utensils.
It's questionable, but if it's just rinsed off, it does work. Now we don't do it, but actually, yeah. I'll explain to you why in a little bit. Hold on, when we get to meat and milk, we'll discuss why that would actually work. Okay, what's left? We did animals, we did birds, okay, we need a Masora. We have 24 varieties you cannot eat, because we're not too sure what the 24 varieties are. We did fish, what else? Insects. Insects. When it comes to insects, there's not much wiggle room. Insects are not kosher. Okay? Whether that is a form of bug, whatever it is, these are creatures we cannot eat, even if they are attached or embedded inside something else, which is why we're obsessed with checking lettuce. Halachically speaking, the Gemara says eating an insect is worse if it flies and moves on the ground, right? Because it has more categories to it. The Gemara in Makot, I remember learning it many years ago. I think that's where it was. And says that eating an insect is actually probably worse than eating something else, okay? So bugs need to be checked, obviously, as you know. I won't into it, but fruits you eat, if it's got insects on it or inside it, right? These all need to be checked and they need to be removed, yeah.
If you eat an insect by mistake, does it count as like a total?
Good question. I'm going to come to that question. I will hold on to that question. I want to answer that question. Whether eating a non-kosher food is going to affect a person. It's a great question.
My mom says it does, and I once was like, oh my god, I think I just swallowed a fly. And she's like, okay, now you have to throw up. I was like, oh no.
No, you do not need to throw up after accidentally eating a fly. You do not need to do that. Yes.
But like 2 questions.
Yeah.
How come a grasshopper is kosher?
Right. So there is a variety. The Torah itself tells us of grasshopper, chagav, that is actually kosher. And there are various features, and Rashi speaks about it as well. It needs to have certain traits in order to be kosher. There is a question as to the Masorah, how we identify. The Yemenite Jews do have kept some Masorah. Some say they haven't, but some say they have. And they came, my father-in-law, he should live and be well, was born in Israel, actually Palestine to be fair. He was in the army, and he lived in an apartment, and he said there was an infestation of chagavim, of these grasshoppers, cricket kind of things. They would come in, and there was a Yemenite guy next door, and there was a whole bunch of them inside the foyer, in the lobby of his apartment, and he saw the guy, he's like, oh, lovely. And he picked one up, he looked at it, and he went,
I mean, you can't eat it live.
yes, you can.
No, you can't tear them off a live animal.
Ooh, that's a good point, actually. That is a good point. Would you have to kill it first? You probably would, actually. I take it back. You probably would, yeah. I take that back. You cannot give call to it. I think that would apply to insects as well. Thank you. Right. Eat the limb of a live animal. Actually, non-Jews cannot do that, actually. It's one of the Sheva Mitzvah B'nai Noach, which we're going to be learning this course as well. Okay, Ever Menachai. Okay, we'll come to that as well. That's the only insect that,
Insects are not considered animals.
That's exactly what we're saying. Don't consider. By the way, chagav, if you found a kosher one, is it milchig or fleishig?
What?
Is it meat or milk? Basar or chalav?
Can you cook it in milk? Doesn't it say that?
It is parv.
What?
You could cook it in milk. That's absolutely correct. Grasshopper. If you found the kosher variety of grasshopper, I know it looks disgusting to you, Ms. Wellwis, but to those people who eat them, they love
I
them.
had a grasshopper once in my bathroom, and I
Screamed.
Yes, and I refused to go to the bathroom all summer.
Wow. Wow. You know, we should invite a Yemenite over.
So scary. They're scary.
I know. I feel the same way. Okay, so that's it. Besides that, all insects are forbidden. That's why all vegetables, especially the leafy vegetables, need to be checked. And some vegetables we pretty much just don't even eat. I mean, raspberries, my wife, my family, which is like infestation, you know where they are. Strawberries, the leaf has to be cut off. My wife has the whole thing. My wife is like obsessed with this. Soak them and salt and oil, clean them like that. Yes, the way to do it. You got to get the bugs out. And that's where it comes from. Did we do everything yet? Okay. So now we come to something which is really unusual. Oh my goodness. I've got to get through the rest of this today.
Are blackberries?
I'm going to finish this off. Blueberries are okay. They need to be checked as well. Have a look at the skin. Okay, so then we have something which is really unusual. And that is, let's say you have meat and milk. And the meat's kosher. And the milk's kosher. The Torah tells us, Lo tavashel gidi b'chalav imo. You cannot cook a kid in its mother's milk. The Rambam's going to say, and the Gemara is going to get it, that this applies to all animals. And it's on a Torah level. And it's going to be stricter than anything else in Jewish law. Meat and milk, basar and chalav that are cooked together, we're going to see, is going to be stricter than anything else. Why do you think that this law of meat and milk is going to be strict? Actually, before we get to that, let's see how it's stricter. Let's say you have a non-kosher piece of meat. Are you allowed to sell non-kosher meat?
No.
Yes, you are.
You can't benefit.
Yes, you are. You can benefit from non-kosher meat. Absolutely you can. You're throwing a party and it's all non-Jews there. You want to feed them non-kosher meat? The answer is, absolutely you can. You don't have to give them kosher food. It's complete goyim.
You're just not allowed to benefit from something that was involved in Bozar, right?
That's something else. But assume you have a piece of meat, a regular piece of meat, not involved in vodas, you're right. But let's leave idol worship out of this. Let's leave idol worship out of this. You're right, idol worship is bad. We're not to that. When it comes to meat and milk, there's going to be 3 stringencies that actually differentiate it out. And these are based on the 3 times Lot shall gid b'chalav imo are mentioned in the Torah. Number 1, you can't eat it. Okay? Someone makes you a sandwich, which is meat and milk, you can't eat it. Number 2, you cannot even make it. You cannot make the mixture. I'm not going to eat it, I'm just going to make it. I'll be in culinary school and I'll mix the meat and the milk together. You can't do that either. And there's something even stranger. When it comes to number 3, you can't even benefit from it. That means I'm not going to make it, I'm not going to eat it, I'm just going to buy and sell it for a higher price. You cannot benefit from it. No benefit. No making and no eating. Which means I have a dog and I'm going to feed my dog basar b'chalav, I can't do. Or I'm making a party, as one of my friends did, and he had non-Jewish clients, and he was having burgers for his non-Jewish clients with milk melted on top. Actually, it was in the middle of the event, and he realized, oh my goodness, I'm making non-kosher cheeseburgers, right? These are cheeseburgers, basar b'chalav. I can't benefit from it. Just the meat would have been okay. Now am I benefit from it? So he called a certain rabbi, my posek happened to be the rabbi Rav Zimmerman, and he said there's a difference between cooking and the cheese passively melting on. You can't eat it. But to benefit from it, he gave a heta, in that particular instance, for him to serve the cheeseburgers.
Wait,
But
what particular instance? Which instance?
when the cheese was melted on top, right, he gave him a certain dispensation over there. But otherwise, had it been actually cooking meat and milk together, he could not have fed this to non-Jews because he's benefiting from it by giving it to them. Right? Because they're business people and he's feeling he's getting benefit from it, and that would have been forbidden.
So, I like waitress sometimes, and they have a lot of meat.
Great question. Great
And
question.
Does that count as benefiting? And also, if like I see people who go to my shul and they're like ordering stuff for me that like isn't kosher.
Jewish people?
Is that, like, a problem?
Yeah. Yeah. Giving, actually, I think my rabbi once said to me, I'll never forget, he said, I need to open a restaurant in Israel as we invested in the business. And he said, the laws of kosher, owning a restaurant and giving food to people, and said, it's rife with challenges. You can't give a Jew non-kosher food. As a waitress, questionable. I will look into it. I'm not an expert in it. It is questionable whether you are directly benefiting by giving this.
You're earning a wage for it.
I hear.
That's not your purpose when you're a waitress. It's not your purpose.
Right.
But they're
Okay, I
getting
hear.
someone
The waitressing,
else.
I,
Like, you're not.
I hear.
Done it in any non-Jewish function.
Okay, doesn't mean I have to do it.
Also,
But they're giving her a tip. They're like. That's
Yeah, give it a tip. Go work in a kosher restaurant. That's a good tip, right there.
If regardless they're gonna eat somewhere, like regardless they're gonna eat there. It's not like
It doesn't mean that. I understand it. Doesn't mean you have to be the one who's actually giving this Jewish person that food. Yeah.
Also, for
Everyone's woken up now.
question, I
Yeah.
thought it only applies to kosher meat and kosher milk. Like, all if it's not
Very, very
kosher
good.
meat.
That happens to be true as well. That's a good point. That was a good point. But eating, she's saying a Jewish person
But in a
eating meat and milk. True, this basar v'chalav is actually kosher meat and kosher milk. Otherwise, it's the rabbanon. It's also been rabbinically. But this is kosher meat, kosher milk, which in most non-kosher eateries you don't find. However, and this is the sad irony of it, where do you find restaurants serving kosher meat cooked with kosher milk? In Israel, yeah. They're actually doing the doraisa basar v'chalav in a lot of these restaurants. Not all of them, chas v'shalom, but a lot of them. Right? You've got to be very, right. Ironically, isn't it? Most non-kosher restaurants, like you look inside, you go to McDonald's, they're not serving kosher meat. Right? Serving non-kosher. They have whole plants making non-kosher meat. Yeah.
Isn't it Israel now only the run both?
No.
The rice.
Doraisa, basar v'chalav is kosher. Yeah.
Is it just
Use the three
for
deraisas.
Sabbath halal, or if it's just non-kosher, like
Meat, you can benefit from it.
to benefit?
Yes. You can benefit from it. You cannot. I think you can. By the way, the Gemara says that you shouldn't be involved in selling pigs and getting pigs for benefit. That was something that happened in history, right? In the time of the Greeks, right? That we don't get involved in it's not the pig business is a good business for Jewish boys and girls, all right? Investing in pork bellies, by the way, in the stock market is something else that you can do. Yeah.
What I don't get, if cheese is like Kali Bishul on Shabbos, then why, and it says Lis Bashal, why isn't it like cooking to like melt cheese on meat?
Are you trying to bring Shabbos into this? Your Hilchah Shabbos Bishul over here?
If it's
I mean, you're asking the question, and we have to think, here. He said the Bishul is a Maaseh Bishul. It goes on a fire and it's cooked as opposed to a passive melt. That's what makes it into a posek, and that's why I'm not a posek. Yeah.
What if someone buys dog food and they find
Great question. If you have dog food,
I want to finish my question.
yes, sorry.
Okay, sorry. And then, so if they couldn't give it to the dog, is that considered they would get halal from it, so their dog would be-
If it's their dog.
Right. Then you want to go and return it. Now it's yours, you can't sell, you're technically selling it.
No, returning is not a problem. It's getting your money back. You're not making profit of it. It's not benefiting. You're just returning it to get your money back. I don't think it's a problem.
It's already yours, you acquired it.
It's not a
Okay,
problem.
you could return it.
I believe so.
Do you
I have
have
to
to
check.
return it?
Don't have to. You can just chuck it away.
Oh yeah, like
Yeah, you can.
if you have dogs.
Yeah, in our Kosher class, they told us that we can't return it because it's
Returning is hana, he said?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's what he says. Getting your money back is hana.
I mean,
It's technically something.
Who was this?
Robert Palmer.
He's a bigger Talmud Chacham than me. You can't return it. I thought you could. Yeah.
Two quick questions. One, does that mean like let's say you wanted to give it to like your housekeeper or something like that?
That's benefiting from it.
So you can't.
No, you cannot. Same with the Yanesach. We talked about wine as well. You cannot. That's benefit. That's giving time, getting benefit, because doing a favor for her. That for sure you cannot do.
Okay. And then also.
Bas machallah that's cooked together. We're talking about non-kosher food. You can. If you have non-kosher cookies, then you can.
Dog food that's milk and meat together.
If it's cooked and you know it's meat and milk together, such a thing. I don't know.
What if it's not cooked? What if it's like? I mean.
If it's put next to each other, it is cooked. It's always cooked.
Okay. Also, a lot of restaurants in Israel that have night and dairy will tell you that they have separate, like, they have their meat and they have their dairy, but not together. Is that?
Wait, there's non-kosher restaurants that have meat and milk together, cooked together.
No, I'm saying in Israel there are restaurants that like have what they have.
It's kosher meat
Kosher meat,
and kosher milk,
kosher milk.
and it's serving in the same place. That will be the, well, it's, if you get such a heter, I mean, I know there's a place, Cafe Ramon, they have two separate kitchens. They have milk side and milk side and meat side. I start in the milk and go to the meat. That we're going to see is okay. It's like you need about my kitchen. I have meat and milk in my kitchen, but you trust me not to mix it up. That's a trust issue over there. That's a trust issue. Whether you trust you come to my house, you trust them to have separate plates. All the rest of it. We'll see why in a second. By the way, okay, I just want to move a little bit further. I'm so sorry. So I can finish this. Why are we more strict with meat and milk? Do you think? Torah says so. It's a chok. But there's a rationale if you think about it, because you have kosher meat, kosher milk in your house. Chance to put them together is so there's a lot more boundaries that are put between them. Okay? And the fact that you won't find kosher meat in someone's house, generally speaking, and you'll find non-kosher milk. You'll find pig milk. Anything that comes out of anything not kosher is not kosher. Pig milk, not okay. Camel milk, not okay. Cow milk, okay. Right? Deer milk, okay. If the animal is kosher, it comes out of it as kosher. By the way, why is honey kosher then? Does it come out of a bee? How come we can eat honey? Is honey kosher?
Yes.
Why? Because it's not coming out of the bee is processing it, and therefore it is kosher. But if it were to come out of an insect or a creature that's forbidden, it would be non-kosher. Okay, whatever comes out of a non-kosher animal is non-kosher. Okay, so these are three categories, and since you have kosher meat, kosher milk together in the same place, extra stringencies are put down. So strict are with basar v'chalav, there is even a separation in terms of time. We've got a lot more to do, so stay with me, ladies. In terms of time. And that is, you cannot eat milk after meat, or actually meat after milk in certain circumstances. Let's start with the one that we know about. Why can you not eat milk after meat? The Gemara talks about it. What is the problem over there?
Digestion.
So actually, it's not digestion. And that is a common mistake that many people make when it comes to milk after meat. So there's actually a machloket, Rashi and the Rambam. There's a machloket, Rashi and the Rambam when it comes to this. I'm going to make sure I get the right one. According to the Rambam, when you eat a piece of meat, and we talk about meat, we don't mean chicken. We're going to add chicken into this, but actually we're talking about meat, beef, and the like. The fibers get stuck in your teeth. If you drink milk or eat milk afterwards, or cheese product, it's going to mix together with the meat, and you're going to eat both together. So the Gemara, that's Rambam's interpretation of the Gemara. The Gemara says there has to be a separation. Okay? Ben suda l'suda, from meal to meal. There has to be separation. First of all, why do you need separation? Why can't you just one after the other? I won't eat together, I'll have one, I'll immediately the other one. So according to Rambam, there are fibers. According to Rashi, when you eat meat, there is a greasy film that occurs inside your mouth. And when you eat the meat, it leaves that film. Then you eat the milk, it combines together, and you eat it both together. So Rambam is the fibers of meat, bein hashinayim, between the teeth. Okay, and Rashi is going to be the film, the greasy film, right? It leaves like a film in your mouth of grease. Then why can't I have milk after meat ever? What's this whole time thing going to do? So after a certain period of time, from meal to meal, those fibers go to the Rambam, are no longer considered meat. Like you have a nice steak, wake up the next morning, some fibers in there, that's not meat. The greasy film eventually wears off. How long does it take? So that's open for discussion. How long does it take to get from meal to meal? The Gemara says there are great people who waited 24 hours. That is not what we do. So, the Shulchan Aruch says 6 hours. The Ramah, Rav Moshe Islis, which Ashkenazim follow, says really 1 hour is sufficient, and that is actually the opinion of the Zohar. However, we are known to do 6 hours as well. Dutch Jews do 1 hour.
They do 72 minutes.
No, that's Shar Ikkel. Not the 72 minutes. 1 hour, I believe, is what it says. Shar 60 minutes. Halachic, 60 halachic minutes. What?
3 is made up, right?
3 is not made up. 3 occurred later on. That's a later. That's not really in the early sources. Later on, German Jews, Ashkenazim, real Ashkenazim from Germany, they do 3. And that's based upon the separation between the main meal where you have meat, which is lunch, until dinner. In the winter, that'll be a few hours. So from Suda to Suda, they'll say that's a 3-hour wait, and Ashkenazi Jews do 3 hour, those who follow that. Really, if you don't have a Masorah, you should do 6. The Rambam speaks about this, and is understood by some people, this is Machlokas, to be in the 6th hour, which according to some is 5 hours and a little bit, or the majority of the 5th, because when you go with the majority, it's as though it's Ruba Kakulo. Majority is like everything. So they'll do 5 and 31, for example. There are those that do that. Real Sephardim should do 6 hours. But if you have a Baal Tshuva, which I deal with a lot, and they're like, I can't wait 6 hours, right? I'm like, okay, 6 hours is what your goal should be, but you can start with 1. 1 is better than nothing. The Ramah says so. You start with 1, and the Zohar actually says so. Okay? And therefore, you do 1 hour, and you can build up from that point onwards. That's milk after meat. And that was the Shulchan Aruch. We saw the Ramah. And the Zohar says you need 1 hour after meat and after milk, both ways. That's the Zohar and Al Pi Kabbalah. However, is this going to be true for meat after milk? Is this going to be true, the Rambam and the Rashi, Suda la Suda, however long that is, according to your minhag, for meat after milk? Do you ever have to wait?
My family keeps 6 hours after hard cheese.
So, the answer is going to be regular milk, no problem. Why? Because it don't get stuck between your teeth and doesn't leave fibers. That's why you can have a glass of milk and then have meat right away. But let's say you were to find a milk product that has these 2 traits, such as aged hard cheese, which we distinguish as a cheese that is kept for more than 6 months, not American cheese, not the mozzarella you buy in the store. That's not the real cheese we're talking about. That stuff is like milk. I'm talking about a real good French. Any Frenchies in here? Right, a good French veiny hard cheese. Yeah? You eat it. That leaves, you would have to wait the same amount of time you had milk after meat to have meat after the milk. And the only cheese that I know of, that I personally cannot stand, is that. No, feta is not like that. Hard Parmesan cheese, the stuff that smells like feet. Right, that stuff that people sprinkle on their pizza. My wife is all over the place. I'm like, oh God. Right? That actually, hard Parmesan cheese would fall into the category. And if you were to eat, and you actually look at the kosher, part of it has to be kosher obviously, it'll say age 6 months. It'll say that on the label. It'll say on the label. Right? And by eggplant Parmesan, by the way, you can ask the restaurant. Most of them are not using Parmesan, they're using some like mozzarella, they're just calling it that. So ask in the restaurant, you'd have to actually know about that. Yeah? Yeah.
What if you're a vegetarian, but you'll eat things that were cooked with meat, but you won't eat meat?
What about them?
How long do you have to wait? Or
Fine. So that's called a tavshil shel basar. So chicken soup, that is chicken soup that was cooked with meat in it, is considered to be like meat. Has the same category. All the same rules would apply. How did chicken end up in this category? We're talking about beef. So that's from the Gemara, and the Gemara says that rabbinically we're going to add chicken into the beef because chicken is eaten with meat and is sold together with meat. And we see it today, right? They don't sell chicken with a fish. They sell chicken with a beef, right? It's always, anywhere you go to, they're put together. It's rabbinic. And Rav Yossi Aglili in the Gemara actually disagreed. He said it's not. We do not paskin like that. Chicken for us has the same status as meat. We give it the same category in terms of weighting and all the rest of it. And therefore, we follow the same rules because of it. Okay, we follow the same rules because of it. Anything cooked with meat is like meat. Tavshil shel basar. Chicken soup with a chicken is still like chicken. And beef and everything else. Okay. Now we've covered that. And that was a good quick summary of the laws, if I say so myself. Let's try to figure out why. Now the Torah itself, as I mentioned, does not say we keep kosher because of health. What does the Torah tell us? The reason for keeping kosher is what does the Torah say? Mentioned a number of times, right? Particularly in Parshat Shemini, Leviticus, I think 17. Yeah.
Is it to make you like separate from?
So the expression the Torah uses is, what's the expression for separate in Torah? Very nice. Because you are an kadosh. That's the reason given. It doesn't say health. It doesn't say don't eat pigs because of trichinosis. It says health. It says, kadosh. Now the word kadosh means holy, but as you said very nicely, the word kadosh actually means what? Separate. We separate ourselves from it. Okay? Separate, distinct, apart. Kadosh, we're a separate nation. Shabbat Kodesh, it's different, separate for the rest of the days of the week. Eretz Yisrael is Eretz HaKodesh. Right? It's not like any other land, it's separate. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the ultimate Kedusha because he's the most separate being that exists. So Kadosh is a code word for separate. So we separate ourselves and the result is Kedusha. So what we're going to do is, we're going to look at the commentators, and I brought them inside for you, who are going to give us the reasons for kosher, which is weird because it's a chok. So we'll see why it's a chok, and we'll see there's no rational explanation. It is a soul thing, because kedusha affects the neshama. That's why there cannot be a rational explanation for kashrut, because there is no rational explanation. It's a chok. It's a spiritual one, and those rabbis, especially we'll see the more Kabbalistic ones, will give us some reasons why. Although even the Gemara itself will give us a clue. Let's go into this together so we can finish this topic today. Then we can rush our way to Mashiach. Says the Kli Yakar, page 17, all the food that is forbidden, guf, nothing to do with health. We see the non-Jewish people eat non-kosher food, and they're very healthy. It can't be that. Open your eyes, you'll see it. They eat shrimp, and they eat crab, and they eat lobster, and all these little crustaceans that are okay. Ella, kavanatam, it's got to be l'refuat haneshama. It is health of the soul. It's the original soul food. See what I did there? Ki magrishim rach tahara kedusha. Eating non-kosher food drives out the Holy Spirit that is inside us. What does that mean? I don't know. It's a chok, but that's what it does. Umolidim atimut, and what happens is it leads to the blocking up of the mind, va'achzariut, and cruelty. Now that we have to understand. So hold on. V'zedaf gamol aleihem. The Torah says aleihem. This is only for the Jewish people. L'Yisrael. Kosher is not for non-Jews. They can eat whatever they want. Right? There is a soul thing going on over here. Somehow the Jewish people are separated out, and their soul is affected by non-kosher food. What does that mean? I don't know. It's above my pay scale. Because Jewish people are people of the next world, and somehow eating non-kosher food is an olam haba thing. It affects their personality, which we're going to see in a second. And those who are fit for olam haba, guaranteed a place in it. That's where kosher comes in. Avalom olam, but non-Jewish people, they got no connection. They want to give charity, no problem. They want to put on tefillin, I mean they can, they want to. But this is not going to affect them, but it affects us. Says the Midrash. Follow carefully. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem to the Jewish people, His haru atzmechem, be careful, shelo leshakates, do not be disgusting, do not abominate, et atzmechem, yourselves, but mehemet tameah, by eating a non-kosher animal, that should say tameah, not tamara. Tamea, over shirts Tameh, and with a creature, a cruelly creature, insect that is not kosher. Amad David Akel Tamim Darkos, that God, his ways are perfect. Okay, Tzrufa b'shvil tzarach b'yosaf. This is going to purify a person. Amar Rabbi Huda Nasi said, Ma echbar lagalosh baruch hashech liyisrael b'lo shchita. What does Hashem care if you eat an animal that hasn't been shechted? What's it going to do? If we cut from the front rather than the back, he says somehow it's going to affect us. This is going to affect the neshama. I beat a kosher animal. A kosher animal has to be shechted properly as well, obviously. It's going to affect us. And the Gemara gives an interpretation over here as well. We're moving fast. We're following inside. Tana de Rabbi Shmuel, the academy of Rabbi Shmuel taught, Aveira mitamtemet libo shel adam. Doing an Aveira is somehow going to block up a person's heart. How does he know this? How does he know that a person's heart can be blocked up? That's not through cholesterol. That's a spiritual blockage. And he quotes this mitzvah over here. Look at this. Shneimar v'lo titamu behem v'nitmeitem bam. It says, do not contaminate yourself through eating these shrosim, these creatures, because you'll become contaminated. Says the Gemara, you know the word contaminated, tameh? Actually, you should read it not contaminated. Al tikri nitmeitem ella ve'nitamtem. It's going to block you up. Eating non-kosher food is going to block you up. You can read it's a play on words, but it's the same letters. Missing one, as we're going to see. The aleph gets removed. When you do that, you go from contaminated to blocked up. Look at Rashi on this Gemara, note 5. Mitam temet. What is that word? So you thought that means tumah. He says, don't read it as tumah, read it as blocked up. Right? Cheda atum, to block up. Or temet v'sotemet mikol chachma. It is going to diminish your wisdom. A Jew eats these foods, somehow, in some way, it affects the neshama. We don't know why, it's a chok. And it's going to block up your level of wisdom. I'll tell you a quick story from the Rambam. Then I'll need 5 more minutes to get through this, God willing. The story told the Rambam that he was involved with the Yemenite Jews. The Rabbanite Jews are obsessed with the Rambam. They follow the Rambam l'halacha. And they wrote him and said, a lot of our kids are going off the derech, which is unusual because the Yemenites were chazak, you know? And he wrote back and said, check the knife of the shochet. Very famous story. Right. I said, the kids are going off. Tatzalam Torah, Tatzalam mitzvahs. Check the knife of the shochet. And the Rambam will know Kabbalist. He checked and they saw there was a nick in it. It has to be a very sharp knife, rendering the food, the meat, non-kosher, even though they weren't aware of it. Right? They weren't aware of it. And still, it was affecting them. And they fixed it up and they found the kiss out to come back. And that's why for that and other reasons, the Rambam saved Yemenite Jewry with his letters, like the Gerta Tema. Okay? It just has that effect. Somehow, at a soul level, eating non-kosher food affects and it blocks up your heart from Chachma. It's a famous story. So your mother was actually correct. Somehow it affects you. You're not held liable. You didn't do anything wrong. It's still going to affect you. Right? It's like going to the fridge, my Rebbe used to say, right? Take out some food that, is off. It's still going to affect you. You're not held liable. It's still going to affect you. Let's keep going. Let's look at the Ramban on this. Says the Ramban, Lo tochel kol tu'ev, not into any disgusting thing. Right? And he says that we should know. The first says that these foods, says they're disgusting. Not disgusting for the body, disgusting for the soul. Now the Ramban elsewhere does say it will potentially affect the body because the body affects the soul. So having these non-kosher foods could actually affect the body. That's not the root reason. It's not helping, it's not affecting the body and then into the soul. It's starting with the soul and somehow may even affect the body. But the Ramban is unique in that. Okay? Everyone else says that it's a soul thing, and he agrees. He just says it's maybe so bad that it affects the body as well. Okay? As we know, certain foods, right, affect your personality as well. Okay? Says the Ramban, and this is amazing. He says, let's try to figure it out. And he looks on that Gemara we looked at, right? We see from nitmeitem to nitamtem, the contaminate to block. Remember that connection we made? And he says the following, look inside. Va'od hatorim ira enai besod hatolda. he says the Torah is going to actually enlighten us when it comes to Tolda, cause and effect. She'asra lanu mitzad behemot v'chayot. The Torah forbade certain animals and certain ophot, certain birds, or mitzad dagim and certain fish. V'gam ze'olach b'shar derech Torah. And he says this is true when it comes to the entire Torah. Shekal devarim tovim leguf kanat be'olam v'tovim lenefesh. They're good for the soul as well. Mitzad hayitzira mitzad mitzvah, whether mitzvah or when it comes to the body. And look at this. Ki ha'devarim ha'ela you it's known shein machalim tovim rufu labriyot. They're not for the body. Milvad zeh yesh lahem nezek v'nefesh. We started told that they're going to affect the soul. And that's why he says, look very carefully, v'zeh nitmatem. What do? We took out the aleph. From contaminated v'metem to blocked v'tamtem, the aleph is removed. Okay? What does the aleph always represent? One is Hashem. So you remove Hashem. Hashem is being removed from the soul that eats non-kosher food. That's the analogy in the Kabbalah we're going to see in a second. But then he gives a fascinating explanation. Okay? This is the Ramban. He says, it's a known thing, if you look at the list of non-kosher birds, you'll notice that the animals that are not kosher, and the animals too, and birds, are birds and animals of prey. Animals and birds of prey. P-R-E-Y, not P-R-A-Y. We don't eat animals, he says, that prey on other creatures. We don't eat lions and tigers and vultures and owls. We eat animals that are we don't eat animals that are the predator. I take that back. We eat animals that are the prey. That are preyed upon. We don't eat animals that are the predator. We eat animals that are the prey. Yeah? Why? Because there's a certain element, he says, of achzoriyat b'nefesh. These animals have a certain cruelty in them. And somehow, by eating non-kosher food, that's going to affect your neshama. So, you know that expression, you are what you eat? It's not true. I eat cows. I ain't a cow. But what you can say, this is my take on this, that what you eat influences who you are. You are what you eat influences who you are. And he's saying that we are commanded to be rachmanim v'ohavim zel. So we have to love each other and have mercy on each other. And somehow, don't ask me how, by eating those non-kosher animals, it's going to affect the neshama, and we're going to be blocked up. Wisdom's going to remove for us, and we actually take in some of the cruel traits of those creatures. And that's also why we cannot eat the blood of an animal. I forgot to mention that as well. Even a kosher animal has to have their blood removed and drained. That's why you salt the animal to remove the blood from it, right? Because dami nefesh, we said, the blood is the nefesh inside. The blood is from the nefesh, and therefore that's to be removed as well. Yeah.
Really quickly, what is the aleph missing from your tongue?
That's going to see in a second. That's the Kabbalistic thing on page 19. If we have time to get there. The aleph, no. He mentions, he doesn't mention why. Okay. We'll see that the Rabbeinu Bechaya, who follows the derech of the Ramban over here, says the aleph represents Hashem. So when you go from contaminated, it blocks you by the aleph being removed, and the aleph is Hashem. So somehow you remove Hashem from your neshama. Okay. Aleph is one is always Hashem. One is Hashem. Yes.
Okay, there are many animals that are not considered not like pigs or chickens.
So you're right. I can't explain that to you. All I know is there's something about that creature, although a pig may be different, because eventually it will chazir, right? But somehow the way it treats animals, what it eats, the way it eats, it affects the neshama in a negative way. It attacks somehow, eats something about it. That's the Ramban. By the way, you don't have to go with this. You can say, I don't believe this. This is Kabbalah. If you want to say kosher is a chok, we don't know the reason for it, that's fine. What you shouldn't do is say it's a health thing. If you say it's a health thing, then you say, well, I can prove to you pig is actually healthy. And therefore I can eat it. So that you can't say. You can say when Am Kadosh, Hashem separates themselves. And actually, Rav Gamliel in the Gemara says, you shouldn't walk around and say, ugh, that food is disgusting. Right? It's non-kosher. You shouldn't say that. You say, it looks delicious. I'd love to eat that steak. I'd love to go to Burger King. But Hashem says I can't. You shouldn't attribute it to disgustingness. You just say, my neshama is going to be affected by it some way, somehow. I can't eat it. Except lobster. That is disgusting. That's a big cockroach. That I don't get. Right? All these Jews in the restaurants with their bibs on, cracking open, wearing pajamas, eating the lobster, I don't even get that. That's beyond my comprehension. Yeah.
I say that non-Jews are just the same neshama.
we're saying there's a difference. According to this, there is some sensitivity in neshama. A Yiddish neshama gets over a Goyish neshama. Different.
Is it like animal?
I didn't say that. I did. I certainly did not say that.
No, I'm not saying it's an animal. I'm saying that.
It's different. I don't know. Yeah.
This might be really dumb, but could it be that
There's no such thing as a dumb question. There are dumb answers. I'll tell you that right now. Yes.
But since we eat animals that are prey, could that be why like everyone wants to kill us? I'm serious.
I hear. I actually gave a class at a JCC and someone heard this, they were very upset. Said that's why we should eat lions and eat tigers so we can take in their trees and drink blood so we become good. But that's not what Hashem wants. Hashem wants us to be Rahmanim and remove the trait of Achzariot, and therefore we don't eat them. But I hear. Let's finish with the Ramban. So he says, V'tamki am kadosh ata, you're an am kadosh. That's the reason the Torah itself gives us. L'Hashem lekatol Hashem your God. Davek im lo tavashal gir b'chavimo. Don't eat a kid in his mother's milk. Because by taking a kid and killing it and putting it with his mother's milk, that's a cruel thing to do. You're cooking a child in his mother's milk. Somehow, the act itself, but even the process of eating it or even preparing it, that's cruelty. And he says, Ki einu machal nitarev. It's nothing to do. Aval yasor atol liyotem kedoshim b'machal. You have to be kadosh when it comes to eating. Or liyotem kedoshim. And then he says, V'afal pi, even though shekol bas b'chalav yikanes b'lav zeh, all meat, all milk falls into this category. We don't eat chicken and milk. And even if I know this animal was killed one time, the milk comes from another cow, we make a low plug. We make no distinction. And meat and milk are all the same in this way. We add all meat and all milk into this category. It doesn't have to be specifically that meat and its mother and its milk cooked together. We don't do that. It's all meat. Just the act of cooking meat and milk together is going to add achzoriot. It's a cruel thing to do. Right? It's somehow going to affect the mind and the neshama. Okay? Kikol, because all creatures that feed off other creatures that eat milk and are of meat, they fall under this category, he says. That's bottom page 18 if you want to see it inside. V'uderech habishol v'hinei b'kulam achzeret. And by cooking them together, I'm eating them together, it's all achzariot. And then the Rebbeinu Bechaya, I won't do it inside, you can see it in your own time. He says you see the movement from nitmetem to timtum blocked up. He says the possible reason is the letter aleph is missing from timtum for blocked up. Timtum means blocked. It's going to block your neshama. It blocks your cell. It blocks your ability to do good. He says that's the aleph, and the aleph always represents sin. That's why chait says. Right? Sometimes written without an aleph to show that Hashem is being removed because of the sin. I'm cooked. We'll stop over there. Good job, everyone.